When did a wedding toast turn into a health scare and a coat closet escape? So I just watched my 62-year-old father, Jack Griffin, collapse on the dance floor right after making a dramatically confusing toast about second chances, and my future stepmother, Martha, started screaming something about him not being vaccinated. I am currently locked in a coat closet at the reception venue, the Grand Regency, because I needed 5 minutes of silence or I was going to throw my iPhone 14 through a stained glass window. In GL, this wedding was already a disaster before the health scare. Let me back up. I don't even know where to start with this dumpster fire of a weekend. I guess the main context is that this isn't my wedding, thank God. It's my dad's, Jack Griffin, 62M, marrying Martha Smith, 26F. Yes, you read that right, 62 and 26. The math wasn't mathing for anyone in the family, but especially not for me, Henry Hill, 18M. Why am I Henry Hill and he's Jack Griffin? Long, boring story, but basically my mom kept her maiden name and I preferred it. Plus, I don't need a formal connection to my father's eccentricities. Jack is a full-on drama creator. He thrives on chaos and making everything sound like it's a plot point in a bad soap opera. Martha Smith, 26F, is the definition of a meeting monopolizer. Every conversation we've ever had, she somehow manages to turn it into a 5-minute monologue about her life, her dreams, her feelings, and her absolutely perfect skincare routine. Seriously, I once tried to ask if I could borrow her Tesla for a college application drop-off, and she gave me a 10-minute presentation on why electric cars are superior without ever answering the question. She's also clearly attracted to extreme wealth and status, which my dad, a semi-retired venture capitalist, has in spades. The actual red flag started about 6 months ago, not just the age gap. I was visiting my dad at his house in Beverly Hills, you know, the one he bought specifically to impress Martha, and I noticed he was acting weird about his phone. He usually leaves his beat-up Samsung Galaxy on the kitchen counter, but suddenly it was glued to his hand. He'd excuse himself constantly to take calls, whispering, "It's just the office, Henry, don't worry about it." TBH, Jack hasn't been to the office since 2017. Then the financial weirdness started. My dad is generally generous, almost annoyingly so. He paid my rent for my apartment 3B while I figured out college applications. But 2 weeks ago, I got an email notification that the $1,247 rent payment bounced. I immediately called him thinking maybe it was just a processing error. He was super dismissive. He said, and I quote, "Oh, sorry son, just a small liquidity issue. Ran into a few unexpected expenses. I'll get it to you by Friday, promise." Friday came, nothing. Saturday, nothing. By Monday at 11:47 a.m., the complex was threatening late fees and I had to dip into the $347 I was saving for a new bike part. I hated asking again, but I texted him, "Dad, need the $1,247 today. Late fees are racking up. PLS confirm." His response was totally unhinged. "Why are you being such a drama queen, Henry?" I said I'd handle it. "Try to focus on the positives." That's classic Jack, gaslighting wrapped in toxic positivity. But the really strange thing was that while he claimed to have liquidity issues, he was still sending absurd Zelle transactions to Martha. I only know this because he made me set up his banking apps when his Samsung battery died at 3%. I saw a recurring daily Zelle of $200 labeled brunch fund and a massive $5,000 transfer last month labeled wedding dress deposit non-refundable. If he has $5,000 for a dress, he has $1,247 for my rent, right? The math wasn't mathing, part 2. So I decided, being the mature, child-free by choice 18-year-old I am, to bring a +1 to the wedding, my friend and occasional romantic interest, Stephen Green, 37M. Yes, Stephen is almost twice my age. Yes, I know, red flag, but honestly Stephen is usually stable, quiet, and doesn't participate in family chaos. He drives a 2018 Honda Civic, lives modestly, and is generally pretty chill. The problem is Stephen is a full-blown anti-vaxxer. Like conspiracy theories, essential oils, vaccines cause autism level. He's usually discreet about it, but the setting of a huge wedding with older attendees seemed to bring out the worst in him. We got to the venue, the Grand Regency, right on time at 5:30 p.m. for the ceremony. The wedding was OTT, totally Martha. Ice sculptures, a live string quartet playing Taylor Swift covers, everything. My dad was nervous, but Martha was floating. During the cocktail hour, Stephen got cornered by my Aunt Carol about his job. She asked casually if he was up to date on his boosters because she was immunocompromised. Stephen, 37M, without missing a beat, launched into a full-on monologue. "Actually, I rely on natural immunity and supplements. These pharmaceutical companies are just pushing toxins on us. My body is a temple, not a testing ground for big pharma's profits." Aunt Carol looked horrified. I tried to pull him away, whispering, "Dude, read the room seriously," but he just pulled his arm back. That's when Ronald Coleman, 45M, swooped in. Ronald is Martha's older brother, the ultimate toxic positivity pusher. He's always smiling, always telling you to vibrate higher, even when you're actively dying inside. He's the type of guy who tells you to be grateful you have 2 legs when you complain about an $85 plumber charge. Ronald came over, radiating fake sunshine. "Hey guys, everything is great, right? Good vibes only, Stephen. We just need to focus on how amazing this day is for Jack and Martha. No room for negativity in this space." He actually clapped his hands together, forcing a high five on Stephen, who looked deeply irritated. "It's not negativity, Ronald," Stephen snapped. "It's factual skepticism about medical tyranny." "Oh, you worry too much." Ronald boomed, patting Stephen on the back hard enough to almost make him spill his gas station coffee. Yes, he brought his own coffee to a $500 a plate wedding. Long story. Just put a smile on that face and remember, what you put out into the universe gives back. Think happy thoughts, manifest that good health. The level of dismissal was infuriating. I stepped in. Ronald, Steven is just explaining his health choices. Maybe you could just accept that without turning it into a motivational poster. Ronald paused, his smile freezing. Henry, my boy, he calls me boy, I hate it. You're so young, you should be radiating joy today. Just look at your dad, he's marrying the love of his life. Focus on that beautiful connection, everything else is just static. I felt my jaw clench. Static? My financial anxiety is static. My dad's obvious weirdness is static. I had to walk away before I said something truly awful and got disinherited, though after the $1,247 debacle I am not sure what I'd be losing. I went straight to the bar and ordered a sparkling water, contemplating my life choices. This whole situation, Jack, Martha, the ridiculous spending, the stress, it was a breeding ground for bad decisions. Then I got a text. Not from Jack, not from Steven. It was from a number I didn't recognize. The text simply read, "Hey Henry, I saw you at the wedding. Look closely at the couple before they sign the papers. Jack has been leading a double life, trust me." I literally froze. My hands started shaking so hard I almost dropped the water. This felt straight out of a cheesy Hulu limited series. Who is this? I texted back immediately. Who is this? No answer. Read receipts were off. I checked my surroundings. Who would know my number? Only close family, maybe Steven and Martha. I decided to wait until after dinner. The reception was being held in the main ballroom. Everything was moving fast, Jack was drinking heavily, and Martha was doing that weird thing where she smiles widely while making intense, unblinking eye contact with her reflection in the wine glasses. Dinner was torture. Steven was still sulking about Ronald's suppression of truth. Honestly, Henry, that guy Ronald is the reason why society is falling apart, Steven muttered while meticulously picking the cilantro off his expensive salmon. He embodies the denial that keeps us complacent. I get it, Steven, but maybe just enjoy the free Talenti gelato bar they have set up. I was trying to de-escalate, but my mind was stuck on the mystery text. I kept glancing at my dad. He looked fine, maybe a little flushed. He and Martha were doing the standard newlywed photo ops, but I noticed something small, something mundane that suddenly felt monumental. Jack was wearing an Apple Watch that I had bought him for his birthday last year. I remember specifically setting it up for him, connecting it to his Find My iPhone. In a flash of paranoia and total desperation, I grabbed my phone and opened the Find My app. I know I shouldn't be tracking my father, but after that mystery text I was officially spiraling. I saw the little green dot showing Jack's location, the Grand Regency main ballroom, expected. But then I scrolled down to his secondary devices, the ones he usually forgets about. His AirPods case, his old iPad mini, and the old cracked iPhone 7 he uses just for audiobooks. The iPhone 7 location showed up as offline, last seen Tuesday at 11:47 a.m. Wait, that was the exact time my rent bounced and he claimed liquidity issues. I dismissed it. Old phone, probably just dead battery. Then I looked at his location history on the Apple Watch. Yes, I set up location sharing years ago for emergencies. It showed him being at his house most of the time except for a few odd deviations. And one deviation kept popping up. An address across town in the valley near a Costco listed simply as Storage Unit B47. He was there on Tuesday at 11:47 a.m. Why was he at a storage unit when he was supposed to be in a crucial business meeting that made him too busy to confirm my $1,247 payment? This wasn't even the worst part. The worst part happened about 10 minutes later when the speeches started. Martha, in her ridiculously expensive dress, gave a tearful speech about finding her soulmate and how Jack made her feel so secure and loved. It was the standard fluff. Then Jack got up. He had definitely had too much champagne. He grabbed the microphone and looked directly at Martha, then paused. His face was blotchy. "My darling Martha," he started, voice booming and slightly slurred. "You are everything I never knew I wanted a second chance at," he trailed off, looking genuinely distraught. He looked away from Martha, out into the audience, and his eyes landed on me. Then he looked past me toward the back corner of the room near the Ben and Jerry's station. He swallowed hard. "A second chance at it, doing things right. I love you, Martha, truly." And this is where the love triangle complication hit like a freight train. A woman stood up from a table near the back. She was elegant, dressed in a stunning emerald gown, and looked absolutely furious. She couldn't have been more than 35, maybe younger. She shouted, cutting Jack off mid-sentence. "You want a second chance, Jack? What about a first chance with me? After I paid your $347 dry cleaning bill last week and you told me you were going to break it off with her today?" The ballroom went silent. The string quartet stopped playing Yellow. Martha's jaw dropped. Ronald's face for the first time lost its toxic glow. He looked pale, absolutely shocked. Jack just stood there, swaying slightly, microphone in hand. He stammered, I thought you weren't coming. I told you to wait." The woman, looking straight at Martha, continued, her voice raw and breaking. "He promised me he was ending it before the ceremony. He told me he was only going through with this because he was terrified of losing the security deposit on the venue." Martha, the meeting monopolizer, was speechless for the first time in her life. Jack tried to rally. He attempted to use his classic drama creator tactic, raising his hands theatrically. "Honey, listen, this is complicated." Suddenly, he gasped. It wasn't a dramatic gasp, it was a sound of genuine physical distress. He dropped the microphone, which hit the marble floor with a deafening crash. He clutched his chest right where the Apple Watch was strapped and started sweating profusely. His eyes rolled back slightly. Martha finally moved, screaming, "Jack, what's happening?" The woman who had just interrupted the wedding ran toward him. Steven, the anti-vaxxer, rushed forward too, pushing past Ronald, shouting, "He just needs oxygen. Get him some fresh air. His capillaries are constricted. Don't call an ambulance. They'll poison him." Ronald was yelling, breathe deep, Jack, manifest that healing energy, positive thinking. Martha was pointing at Stephen, hysterical. You don't touch him, did you do this? Why isn't he vaccinated? I told him you were crazy. Jack collapsed, hitting the floor with a sickening thud. The sudden silence was broken only by Martha's panicked sobs. I stood there paralyzed, watching my father, who had just confessed indirectly to maybe being engaged or involved with two separate women while also claiming poverty collapse, possibly having a heart attack, while an anti-vaxxer and a toxic positivity pusher argued over his medical care. I felt sick. My stomach dropped like a stone and I felt the overwhelming need to retreat. I didn't care about the drama, the cheating, or the rent money anymore. I just needed to process the potential death of my father amidst this three-ring circus. I quietly slipped away from the table past the chaos and ended up here in this poorly lit coat closet, smelling faintly of mothballs and cheap champagne. My phone is buzzing constantly. 27 missed calls from Martha, 15 from Stephen, and a single frantic text from Ronald that says, "It's not working, Henry. His vibrations are too low, where is the ambulance?" But the text that just came through, the one that made my blood run cold, wasn't from any of them. It was from the mystery woman who had crashed the wedding, the one Jack had been tracking to the storage unit. It's a picture. A grainy photo taken inside the storage unit B47 showing a large, empty space except for two things. A brand new crib and a positive pregnancy test stick sitting on top of a stack of boxes. The caption below the photo simply reads, "He was supposed to tell her he was having a son, our son. Now what, Henry? I am still in the coat closet. I literally just dropped my phone because the light in here is terrible and I am shaking so hard." That text, the picture of the crib and the pregnancy test. The caption, "He was supposed to tell her he was having a son, our son. Now what, Henry?" NGL, my brain short-circuited. I went from worrying about $1,247 and my dad's bad life choices to realizing my dad, Jack Griffin, 62M, was potentially having a baby with a third woman, all while marrying Martha, 26F, and simultaneously tracking his location to a storage unit that housed a nursery. I couldn't breathe. I didn't even acknowledge the 50-plus missed calls or the fact that my father might be dying 10 feet away. All I could think was, child-free by choice. Looks like I might have a half-sibling. I had to get out of the mothball coffin. I waited until I heard the ambulance sirens screaming outside, which masked my retreat. I slipped out the back door of the closet, which conveniently led right to the service hallway, dodging catering staff who were currently serving trauma with a side of mini quiches. I found Stephen, 37M, outside, leaning against his Honda Civic, frantically texting. He looked totally unhinged. "Henry, where were you?" He demanded. "Did you see what happened? They let Big Pharma win. They gave him the IV. I told them he just needed clean alkaline water and some essential oils. That Ronald guy was useless, screaming about low vibrations. We could have healed him, Henry." I stared at him. I had just found out my father was a serial liar and possibly an expectant father, and Stephen was worried about the hospital's saline solution. "Stephen, Dad collapsed. He might be having a cardiac event," I said, trying to keep my voice level. "Exactly. Stress-induced cardiac event caused by the constant bombardment of toxins in modern life and the emotional repression of big wedding culture," Stephen insisted. He was vibrating with indignation. "Did you by any chance know about the woman who crashed the wedding?" I asked. Stephen paused, rubbing his temples. "The crazy lady who implied Jack was a philanderer. No, but honestly, Henry, it was a distraction. We need to focus on the tyranny of the medical establishment. They are trying to cover up the truth about I cut him off. Stephen, I have to go. I need to know where they took him. I need to figure out what happens now." He looked hurt. "What about me? You dragged me here, Henry. That Ronald guy insulted me. I am owed an apology." Honestly, I was done. I looked at the 37-year-old anti-vaxxer I had brought as a date distraction, who was currently making the wedding drama about his personal perceived oppression. "I'll sell you money for the gas, Stephen. Go home." I walked away without waiting for a reply. I just started walking toward where the ambulances had gone. So 2 days later, the hospital and the drama. Jack, 62M, didn't die, thank God. Turns out it was a stress-induced myocardial infarction, a small heart attack, exacerbated by way too much champagne and the sudden realization that his life was imploding on the dance floor. He was stable, but they kept him in the ICU for observation. I went straight to the hospital the next morning. It was chaos. Martha, 26F, still wearing half her wedding makeup and looking surprisingly chic in sweatpants, was camped out in the waiting room. Ronald, 45M, was there too, trying to lead a group visualization exercise for Jack's coronary arteries. Seriously. He was standing in the middle of the waiting room whispering, "Visualize those blockages dissolving into light, Jack. Vibrate higher." The nurses kept giving him death glares. Then there was the mystery woman. Her name, I found out, was Sarah Jenkins, 35F. She was sitting quietly in a corner, clutching a purse that probably cost more than my rent. Martha spotted me immediately. Her meeting monopolizer skills were back online, fueled by fury. "Henry, thank God, your father, Henry, do you know what he did?" Martha launched into a 15-minute monologue about how she was the victim here, how Jack ruined her perfect day, and how Sarah was clearly a gold-digging stalker. She's claiming he was going to marry her. She showed up at my fitting. I filed a restraining order. Martha shrieked, totally ignoring the fact that Jack literally collapsed while confirming he was leaving her for Sarah. Ronald clapped enthusiastically. "Martha, honey, we are choosing to focus on the positive outcome here. Jack is resting. You have a beautiful future ahead, even if it's complicated. We need to manifest an amicable annulment, focusing on shared assets and minimizing emotional residue." I swear, Ronald could coach a breakup through positive affirmations. Then I walked over to Sarah, 35F. She looked tired but determined. I sat next to her. "I'm Henry," I said. "I know who you are, Henry. I am Sarah, and I am so sorry about that wedding. It shouldn't have gone down like that," she said quietly. "So the storage unit, the crib, the baby," I stated, skipping the small talk. Sarah sighed, running a hand through her hair. "Yes, we are having a boy. I am 5 months along." Jack was supposed to tell Martha and finalize the separation 3 weeks ago, but he kept stalling. He kept saying he couldn't afford to break the venue contract. He claimed he was having liquidity issues. She made air quotes around the phrase, which immediately felt like validation for my own suspicion about the rent money. He told me he had set up a separate bank account for the baby and me. He was going to buy me a small condo in Santa Monica. That's what the storage unit was for. It's full of baby stuff. He was so excited, she added, tears welling up. I was furious, but not at Sarah. He let my rent bounce for $1,247 because he was putting down deposits on 3 different futures. Sarah looked genuinely surprised. He let your rent bounce? He just gave me $10,000 for medical bills last week. He told me he was cutting back on his lifestyle to save for the condo. The math wasn't mathing. Part 3. Jack was spending money like a madman but claiming poverty to everyone he owed money to. I pulled out my phone and showed her the screenshot of the $5,000 wedding dress deposit non-refundable and the daily $200 brunch fund Zells to Martha. Sarah's eyes widened. He told me he was having brunch meetings with his lawyers. Daily, we looked at each other. Jack wasn't just a drama creator. He was a financial disaster wrapped in a commitment-phobe nightmare. He was literally paying 2 separate women to live 2 separate, elaborate lives while also starving his son of $1,247. We need to check his bank accounts, I said. He has multiple business accounts and offshore trusts, Sarah murmured. I only had access to the joint account we were setting up for the baby expenses. That's when I remembered the Apple Watch and my paranoid decision to turn on location tracking and account access years ago. I pulled up the banking app where I could still see his movements, even if he didn't realize it. I scrolled through the recent transactions. The $5,000 to Martha, the $10,000 to Sarah. And then I saw something huge, something that made my breath catch. A $250,000 transfer labeled investment opportunity dated 3 days before the wedding to an unknown LLC based in Delaware. What is this? I showed Sarah. Sarah looked pale. He mentioned a high-risk venture right before the wedding. Something about buying into a new crypto firm. He said it was his retirement. If he lost that, he's essentially broke. Suddenly, the whole wedding, the urgency, the collapse, the liquidity issues all made sense. Jack wasn't just broke. He was potentially bankrupt, and he was trying to secure a future by marrying the wealthy Martha, while simultaneously trying to keep the pregnant Sarah happy because she had evidence of his deceit and maybe a claim to his remaining assets. He was performing the elaborate dance of a man drowning in debt. Fast forward to Friday. Stephen's intervention and my mental breakdown. I couldn't deal with the hospital drama anymore, so I went home. I stress cleaned my tiny apartment 3B until it sparkled. The constant buzzing of my phone drove me insane. Martha had somehow gotten my landlord's number and was now asking him if I was paying rent, saying Jack told her I was financially unstable. I had to contact the landlord immediately and show him the text messages proving Jack bounced the payment. I got a text from Stephen, who was apparently still reeling from his experience at the wedding. Stephen, Henry, I've been thinking. Your father's heart attack was clearly caused by years of pharmaceutical exposure and processed foods. I have a 3-day cleanse I want you to try. It involves only spirulina and essential oils. I'll drop it off. I literally groaned. I didn't need a cleanse. I needed an attorney. I tried calling my mom, but she was useless. She just kept repeating, well, Henry, your father always did love a good catastrophe. I decided I needed to talk to Jack. I went back to the hospital late that evening. I found him alone in his room, looking small and pale, hooked up to the monitors. He was fiddling with his Apple Watch, likely trying to delete his location history. Henry, thank God, they won't let me leave. My new wife is hysterical, and that other woman is trying to sue me for everything I own. They are ganging up on me, son. It's an injustice. Classic Jack, always the victim. I sat down, keeping my voice low and steady. Dad, I saw the picture, the crib. Sarah is having your son. Pulling the sheet closer. Yeah, well, surprise, I was going to tell you, Henry. Truly, I just needed the right moment. It was a mistake, Henry, a beautiful, expensive mistake. And the $250,000 transfer to a Delaware LLC 3 days before the wedding, was that also an expensive mistake, or were you betting the last of your retirement on crypto before marrying Martha to save your own skin? Jack turned even paler. He stared at me, jaw slack. How did you? I know about the storage unit, the bounced rent, the brunch fund, Zells, everything. You prioritized 2 separate women and a high-risk investment over paying your son's $1,247 rent. You are not just a bad husband, Dad. You are financially reckless and emotionally abusive. The silence stretched thick with monitors beeping. Jack tried to rally, pulling out the old drama creator charm. Henry, my boy, you are focused on the minutiae. The money is trivial. We are talking about life and love. I was trying to find happiness. Martha represented stability. Sarah represented passion. I was searching for true fulfillment. I know I made mistakes, but I was trying to manifest a better future. He paused, then added, it's just static, Henry. Focus on the positive. I actually laughed. A harsh, dry, completely empty sound. You sound exactly like Ronald, I said, just without the annoying clapping. I stood up. I'm done with the static, Dad. I'm done with the drama. When you get out of here, I want your explicit written promise that you will never track me down, try to contact me, or use my life as a source of drama again. If you need money, don't call me. If you have a child, send the child support to Sarah. I'm cutting you off. I realized in that moment I was doing exactly what I had wanted, setting a boundary. This wasn't anger, it was cold, quiet resolution. Child-free by choice meant also choosing to be free from his constant, exhausting need for attention. Jack looked genuinely shocked, not just dramatically hurt. You can't do that, Henry. I am your father. Who will I talk to? Therapy, Dad. Try therapy, it works. Or talk to Martha's brother. He can help you manifest some self-awareness. I walked out. I didn't look back. A week went by where I binge-watched and processed. The fallout was predictable and terrible. Martha hired a high-powered divorce attorney. She found out about the storage unit and the pregnancy within hours of my conversation with Jack. She filed for annulment, citing fraud, and was attempting to claw back everything, including the $5,000 wedding dress deposit and probably the 200 brunch fund Zelles. In GL, she went full-on savage, and honestly, good for her. She was a monopolizer, but she wasn't dumb. Sarah filed a paternity suit and a financial claim, attempting to secure the Santa Monica condo Jack promised and lifetime support for the baby. Jack was released from the hospital and immediately checked into a 5-star hotel to recover from the betrayal. He was apparently relying on Ronald to vibe check the legal documents before signing anything. I wish I was joking. Steven sent me 3 texts asking if I tried the spirulina yet. I blocked him. It felt liberating. The age gap thing was already weird, but the inability to read the room during a potential family death and bankruptcy was the final straw. TBH, I was just using him as a dramatic shield against my father anyway. That relationship was never going to work, and blocking him was setting another healthy boundary. I had to deal with the immediate financial crisis. I changed all my banking accounts, locked my credit report, and found a temporary job tutoring college prep math to pay for the rent Jack stiffed me on. I realized that dependency was exactly what Jack thrived on, and I had to destroy it. I finally booked a therapist. I know, groundbreaking, but I needed professional help to untangle 18 years of Jack's chaos. By Tuesday, I was in my first therapy session. My therapist, Dr. Lee, was great. She was quiet, only nodding, letting me spill the entire story from the $1,247 rent bounce to the collapsed groom, the anti-vaxxer date, the toxic positivity pusher, and the surprise baby mother in the emerald dress. When I finished, I felt exhausted. I summarized, I feel relieved but also guilty. Like I abandoned him when he needed me most, but if I stayed, I would have drowned. Dr. Lee looked at me calmly. Henry, your father is an adult and he created this situation through decades of choosing chaos and avoidance. He needs to face the consequences, not find another person to manage his emotional landscape. Your decision to cut him off isn't abandonment. It is self-preservation. It is establishing a clear boundary you never had before. She then said something that completely reframed everything. You are child-free by choice, but your father forced you into the role of the parental adult for years. He made you responsible for his emotions and his finances. Now you are choosing to be free of that dynamic. It hit me. I wasn't just avoiding having my own kids, I was running away from the lifetime of having to parent my own father. 3 days after that, the unexpected ally, I got a call, not from Jack or Martha but from Ronald Coleman, 45M, the toxic positivity pusher. My stomach sank. Henry, hey my boy, wonderful, wonderful day, right? He chirped. What do you want, Ronald? I was bracing myself for an hour of manifesting good outcomes. Oh, just wanted to check in. You know, Jack is really low vibration right now. He keeps trying to manifest Sarah's forgiveness, but it's not working. He asked me to come over and help him clear his chakras, but honestly, Henry, I am getting a lot of negative energy from him. I waited. This sounded like Ronald was cracking. Look, Henry, off the record, and please don't manifest anything bad from this. I think your dad is legitimately crazy. He showed me his bank statements and there's like $4,000 left. He spent all his money on these 2 women and that crypto investment crashed before the wedding. He knew he was broke and married Martha for the emergency cash injection. This was news. The investment crashed. Jack went through with the wedding knowing he was penniless. He asked me to give him an uplifting affirmation to use in court. Ronald continued, his voice dropping for the first time ever, sounding almost normal. I told him, Ronald, this isn't about affirmations. This is about massive, unsustainable debt. I think I need to step back. This level of negativity is dangerous for my aura. I almost laughed again. Ronald's self-preservation instincts kicked in when Jack's drama threatened his personal energetic balance. So you're done with him? I asked. I am choosing to maintain a distance for my own mental hygiene. But here's the thing, Henry. Martha is not as bad as you think. She's demanding Jack pay back every cent and she's already secured an injunction against the $4,000 remaining in his checking account. She said she's donating the money to a charity supporting financial literacy for young adults. I snorted. Wow, Martha the monopolizer doing good. Look, Henry, she's hurt. And she's smart. She saw through his financial manipulation pretty fast once she realized he had nothing left to give her. She's moving on. She told me to tell you that she's sorry for acting crazy about the rent and she wants you to focus on your studies and stay away from anti-vaxxers. I smiled slightly. At least Martha and I shared one common enemy now. ## update. This morning he showed up at my door. I thought I was safe. I really did. I had 3 therapy sessions under my belt, a new tutoring job, and Jack was supposedly confined to his 5-star hotel prison. But no. At 8:30 a.m. there was aggressive knocking. I checked the peephole. It was Jack, looking disheveled, wearing the same expensive rumpled suit he collapsed in, holding a small box of generic Dunkin' Donuts. I opened the door, keeping the chain locked. Henry, thank God, I need to talk to you. They froze my accounts. I can't even afford a decent hotel room now. That Viper Martha, she's ruined me. Can I stay here for a few days? I just need to regroup. You know, son, this is a chance for us to bond. We can manifest a solution together. He was trying to use the toxic positivity language, but it didn't fit him. It sounded pathetic. No, Dad, I said flatly, you cannot stay here. I'm moving out next month and you owe me $1,247 in back rent. You are not sleeping on my couch. He rattled the doorknob. But where am I supposed to go, Henry? I have nowhere. I don't know, Dad. Maybe call Sarah. She seems to be the only person you were actually investing in, even if it was just a storage unit full of baby things. His face crumpled. He was trying to dial up the drama creator to level 10, complete with lip quivering. "Henry, please, I am having chest pains again." I almost bought it. Almost. But then I saw him glance past me, checking if anyone in the hallway was watching his dramatic performance. "The hospital is 3 blocks away, Dad. Go there. If you call me, I will call the police. We are done." I slammed the door and locked the deadbolt. I stood there shaking, leaning against the door until I heard his slow, defeated footsteps retreat. I didn't cry. I didn't text anyone. I just sat down and realized that was the hardest thing I had ever done, and I had survived it. I had set the final, firm boundary. The resolution approach. Therapy working. It's been 4 weeks since the wedding disaster. Jack is living temporarily with Ronald, who has apparently decided that providing a couch is a charitable act, as long as Jack constantly recites positive affirmations and pays for his own holistic cleansing supplements. Ronald keeps texting me complaining about Jack's dense negative energy, but he won't kick him out. It's exactly the codependent, weird drama Jack needs. Martha is thriving. She got the annulment, the money went to charity, and she secured a new venture capital job that will allow her to monopolize even bigger meetings. She even sent me a polite text apologizing for the stress she caused and wishing me luck with college applications. Growth. Sarah is moving forward with the paternity suit. She seems genuinely focused on the baby and cutting Jack out as a romantic partner, only dealing with him through lawyers. She confirmed that Jack only has about $2,000 left, which will quickly go to legal fees. And me? I found a new apartment, a shoebox, but it's mine. I paid the first month's rent myself using the money from my tutoring gig. My credit score is fine. I got accepted into my top choice university, mostly because I wrote a totally unhinged but extremely honest essay about the wedding and my subsequent need to be child-free by choice. The admissions counselor apparently thought it showed excellent self-awareness. I'm still seeing Dr. Lee. She helped me realize that my decision to be child-free wasn't about hating kids. It was about refusing to recreate the cycle of chaos I grew up in. I refused to ever make someone dependent on my drama or my finances for survival. The other day, I was at the grocery store buying ramen because I am broke, but happily so, and I heard a kid screaming near the produce aisle. Instead of feeling stressed or overwhelmed, I just smiled and walked past. I realized I was okay with my choice. I still have moments where the anger flares up, especially when I think about the $1,247. But my friend reminded me that the $1,247 was cheap tuition for the lesson, the cost of cutting ties with chaos. I haven't talked to Jack since I slammed the door. My mom sends me updates, usually forwarded texts from Ronald about Jack trying to manifest a lottery win, but I just archive them. I'm building a life that doesn't revolve around his next theatrical collapse. Yesterday, I bought a new, slightly used bike part. It cost exactly $57, and I paid for it with cash I earned myself. It was the most satisfying financial transaction of my entire life. I'm eating ramen every day but sleeping peacefully, so worth it. Anyway, that's the update. I'm still Henry Hill 18M, child-free and finally genuinely free. I guess the only thing that tied up neatly was the realization that sometimes the only way to win a love triangle drama is to leave the stage entirely. We'll update if anything else insane happens, but TBH, I am planning on living a very boring, financially stable life from now on. Wish me luck.